Hey, Linda, welcome back to Balancing Act. How you doing today?
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm excellent, probably better than I deserve. We titled this Back to School Discord, Time for Harmony. We both laughed about that when we put it up. Both of us are fairly well removed from our children going back to school.
Yes, thank God.
But I have nieces, nephews, grandkids, in another couple of years, a great-granddaughter that will be going to school. And it has changed since we raised children.
Oh my. And I've got the nieces and nephews and the great nieces and nephews and the neighbors, just watching the insanity of what parents have to go to get their kids back to school. It's just
yeah.
And in some ways I think it's better because I've got a couple of aunts that were teachers, and even way back in the day, they paid for a lot of things themselves. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's a bad thing versus, me as a parent providing my child with the things they need for school versus the teacher bringing them, because the teacher is not going to be able to, I went to Catholic school, so, there was 30, 40 kids in a class. And, but it's kind of eye-opening, the things that when you look at it, people are like, why do they have to bring their own Kleenex? Well, do you know how much tissue, especially like first through third grade goes?
Oh, God, yeah.
Or kindergarten through third grade.
Yeah.
They're little germ magnets. You need.
Oh, God, I know. My granddaughter she thought she would love being she worked in a lot of daycare and preschool and things like that. And Samantha has a compromised immune system from some surgeries and stuff like she had when she was a baby. And, she was sick all the time. I mean, all the time. Now with the great grandbaby, she still struggles a little bit. And all I can think of is when the great granddaughter goes to school, Samantha's still going to be sick all the time. She catches everything.
Well, and so that's part of what's coming up with school opening up again.
Yeah, they are. Here in Florida, they open, I want to say, next week. I think the teachers are back to school next week, and somewhere around the 11th of August, they open back up. And I don't know when do they start there?
I want to say them about the same time.
Yeah.
And, kids that have not hung out with each other all summer, or you get new kids and new adults and new illnesses.
Yeah.
Round of illnesses, not necessarily something you've never had before, but
right.
Well, there's that. In fact, I haven't seen what a school supply list looks like, but if I were a teacher, I'd be adding things like Lysol, hand sanitizer, masks.
Yeah. I'm not a huge, so I used to sell the hand sanitizers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm not a huge fan of the alcohol-based ones for a couple of reasons. But I agree with you. There are some other, like hydrogen peroxide-based sanitizers and things like that, that are safer for our children. Most of the alcohol-based ones are like 65 to 68% alcohol, which is absorbed right into the skin.
Yep.
So anyway, but yeah, I haven't seen a list recently either. I do know when we put my niece from Ukraine into school here, oh my goodness, that was 2022. Yeah. When we went in there and got the list, it's like, what is this? I had some name, it was some sort of notebook.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, Okay, why don't you just say notebook, right? They had to have certain, if they were using pens, they had to have certain pens, certain pencils, and each teacher had different requirements. And I never understood that, you know. We went through school with a number 2 pencil.
Yeah, in fact, I remember the big deal when we started bringing mechanical pencils to school, how
Yeah,
that was. But you had to have the number 2 I'm surprised they don't do that anymore.
yeah,
You had to have the number 2 pencil for the standardized tests
yeah, yeah,
because that's what the reader machines needed to
yep,
have.
yep.
And we were also talking before we started, even non-private schools, a lot of them have uniforms now.
Yes, yes.
So then there's I went to Catholic school, so we, every year, and my poor sister, I don't think she ever had anything new because I got my hand-me-downs. We were 5 years different,
Yeah.
and so she got my hand-me-downs.
Hmm.
And it's kind of funny, but my 50th class reunion from my 8th grade class is coming up this next month, and I think they still wear the same uniform pattern they
Oh,
did
wow,
when I was in school.
wow, wow. Yeah,
That
it wouldn't surprise me. I do know, like so I have a middle school and an elementary school right behind me. I mean,
yeah,
uh, just you can throw a stone and hit the school, and it's just that close. And they have uniforms. I don't know that I think the slacks or pants or whatever they wear are not necessarily uniform.
but they have to be a certain color and a
They have to be a
certain
certain
style.
color, and then the shirts are either a polo or a t-shirt type with the school logo and everything else on it. And I know when it first started, my niece wasn't too keen on it. But they had, I think if I remember correct, they had 2 choices of color, black and red, because that was school colors, right? And so now she's over at the high school, and their colors are a little more acceptable, I guess. I think it's green and gold or green and white or something like that. But there again, that's what they're wearing. Everybody wears the same thing, right? So you don't have that particular peer pressure thing, right?
Right.
You can't go to some high end. Um, I don't even know what in kids' clothes what's high end anymore or anything like that. But you can't go buy your uniform there. Everybody buys it from the same 1 or 2 suppliers.
Yeah, I was going to say there are usually certain suppliers,
Yep.
certain stores that cater to uniforms. Growing up in Omaha, my gosh, there's a Catholic church on almost every corner,
Yeah.
and the school is attached to that church.
Yep.
So, I mean, they were supplying everybody. And I remember we hated it.
Yep.
My parents loved it because they didn't have to worry about taking it.
Oh,
It's enough to go shopping for clothes on a regular basis, but then things that you're allowed to wear to school, and face it, you're lucky if your child makes the year through in their clothes.
yeah, yeah,
They
yeah,
don't
exactly.
regardless of their age.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so, at least with uniforms, you've got a little bit of leeway.
hmm
Um, it's just, and then they're kind of cute, especially when they're young. The kids are
yeah.
also cute.
When you see them all walking together, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
but
in some ways, it's also part of that group identity,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
so that everybody can kind of start on that level
yeah. hmm
playing field.
There's a
Which,
commonality there. Yeah,
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 which may or may not be the best way to, but you know, it takes some of that tension
yeah,
out of the first day. And so the way we combated that was, who had the coolest shoes.
right.
We wore hiking boots, which
Oh
we
wow.
had to really fight for. And I was in high school in the early 70s, or the late 70s. And back then, those hairy socks were.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so we would wear hiking boots with the hairy socks. And I remember my mom going, "Why do you want to wear that with a dress?" And I said, "The uniform doesn't count as a dress.
Yeah.
It's not something that we would pick.
Right.
It's what we have to wear, so this gives us our individuality."
Yeah. So my cousin in Catholic schools, they had these black and white, I don't even remember what they were called, shoes. And I think,
Oh yeah, well, for the girls we called them Mary Janes.
yes. And I think the boys were all black.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's funny, we sit here and there's people who, if there's anybody definitely not in our generation watching this, they're looking at us like, are you nuts? But that's what we grew up with, and our kids to a certain extent. But I remember the biggest issue was preparing for school. You have the summer, and as summer goes on, you try and let your kids have the time off, the time that they need and everything else. But I know we always started, I don't know, 2-3 weeks before school started. Okay, bedtime.
Yep.
And the kids fought it. They fought it. I know my youngest daughter did the same thing with her two, and they fought it and fought it and fought it. But you got to get into that routine.
Right.
And then the purchasing. Now in Florida, we have several tax holidays during the year where you don't pay sales tax. So there's a whole raft of school supplies that there's no sales tax on.
Nice.
And it's a time frame. I don't, obviously I'm not buying school supplies, so I don't know what that is. I should look at it because I need some stuff for my office. But then we also have hurricanes, so we have 2 tax holidays for hurricanes also. So I think that's a really good thing, and I think parents should be taking advantage of that and planning for that. But the stressful part is now you have to plan for what time they have to be up, and I do know that there has been some conversation here. Elementary school starts at one time. Middle school starts at another time. High school starts at another time. And they've been talking about some continuity there. But the way they've built especially the middle schools and the elementary schools, if they started within 45 minutes of each other here, there would be a traffic jam like no other. It's it's horrible. And so, but you have that. So we have a kid going to elementary school and one going to middle school, or one in high school also. They all start at different times. You got bus schedules if they're eligible to take a bus.
Right.
So you've got to balance all that. So it creates a lot of discord in the family.
It's a logistical nightmare, especially if the schools are not close together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know even when we were growing up, we rode, in elementary school, Dad took us to school and Mom picked us up. High school, I did the bus for a few years, and then we carpooled, and then I drove.
Yep.
Because my high school was way on the other end of town.
Yeah.
And so, the bus was, school started at 7:50 and the bus picked us up at 5:30.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, by the time we made our rounds and picked everybody up and dropped us off, it was like 7:30. I know out here, what they've started doing is building all-inclusive campuses that have like 3 different buildings combined. And depending on where the bulk of the class size is, like maybe this part of the building is set aside for elementary, this part middle school, this part high school. But if the numbers are higher for one of those things, they would get the more space. So it would be, you flow through, but it's all in that campus.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not driving your kids all over town.
Yeah.
Well, we
Yeah.
have 2 of those right by the house here.
Oh boy.
And, I remember when they first opened up and everybody, I mean, the traffic flow could be better, but they've done a fairly good job on mitigating that. But, unlike when I was growing up, these days, if you have a 2-parent household, more than likely both of them are working.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not, they've gotten better about trying to accommodate that, because when you think about it, how we've done school as far as timing requirements for getting there and back haven't really changed
Yeah.
a whole lot in my lifetime,
Right. Right.
and probably not a whole lot in my parents' lifetime.
Right.
You may not see as many small kids walk into school, but that's one of the cool things about living by the elementary school. I get to see the little kids walk to school.
Oh yeah. 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 We have a couple apartment complexes fairly close to us, and so the middle school kids will walk
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, except for the one. And I've yet to figure this out. There's a one, two, three complexes, and the middle school. There's two, or I think there's 3 elementary schools that feed the middle school, and less than a half a mile down the road from where we live are these complexes. They have a bus, and I'm like, are you kidding? And so, but anyway, not everybody takes it. But when the weather's nice, you see hordes.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of cool. Elementary school, man, I'll tell you what, I don't know if there's anybody that has their children go to the elementary school that walks them.
Wow.
The line's got to be close to a mile long of people waiting to drop their kids off.
That's the other thing. The pickup line that's a foreign concept to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did not do that.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about preparation and trying to keep things harmonious while we're preparing for school and getting back in the habit of being in school, you mentioned, a few weeks ahead of time, start getting the kids back on a regular schedule.
Mm-hmm.
That also includes food.
Food, yes.
Making sure that they eat on a regular time schedule so that when school starts, they're not completely discombobulated, because then that's going to affect their ability to focus.
Yeah.
And also, I think as far as now, I don't know how they do it with the class list. I don't know how far ahead of time you can get the list of items, but it would be nice if you had at least a month.
Yep.
Where you can spread that out over a couple of different paychecks, because
Yep.
that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Families that are living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And maybe you've got 3-4 kids starting school, and everybody's school list shows up at the same time, and that's adding additional financial stress.
Yep, it is.
And so, and I know just from my experience that financial stress affects everything else you do.
Yeah, the trickle down is phenomenal.
And it's really hard not to let your kids feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if you're not outwardly expressing it, especially young kids, they are very intuitive. They know something's wrong. They may not know what it is.
Yep.
But they know something's wrong, and that can affect their behavior, their performance, their ability to be their best at school.
Right. And so a couple of keys to bringing harmony into this is, just like you mentioned there, try to spread out the financial stress over literally over the summer, as soon as you get that class list and what's going to be on it. And a lot of teachers have the same thing every year. Yeah. And I don't, and then to plan your schedule. with us, when the kids were living here, it was one of those, okay. Um, so at one point in time, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 females living in the house and me. Now, I always got up before everybody. So I had my morning time. I had my coffee time, but I had to adjust my personal time, the showers and stuff like that, if I wanted to get a shower before 10 o'clock in the morning. So, because if I didn't, there was no hot water. But, I mean, the hot water heaters just don't adjust that fast but anyway, but you have to manage that, and when you have teenagers, they get in the bathroom and they're going to take time and time and time. And so stuff like that. So it has to be managed, but you have to keep the harmony in the family because, one child may get in the bathroom and, they don't even get their hair wet when they take a shower. And so you have to worry about the hygiene there. And then another child may be in the shower for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And so those types of things, there's some discipline that needs to come in. But when you create a schedule, when you have planned the finances and you're ready to make the instant adjustments, that'll bring a lot of harmony back into your life.
That helps a lot. And, one of the things we did is a lot of times I would shower the night before so that I wasn't going to school in the winter with a wet head of hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the shower was in my parents' room.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bathtub was in the hall.
Yeah.
And so if we wanted to shower versus a bath,
yeah,
we had to use their room while then dad's getting up for work and mom's getting up to do, take care of everybody. Right. And so we, and even now, like if it's really hot and I'm having a hard time cooling off before I go to bed, I'll just take a shower and wash my hair so I can have a cool head when I go to bed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You can be creative with your schedule and how those things work.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, hopefully you got some hints.
Yeah. And,
some tricks.
When the kids are getting ready to go back to school, have those conversations with them.
Yeah.
I read an article here the other day. One of the reasons there's so much contention and stuff like that in the home is people have stopped having meals around the dinner table. And so take that time. They say if you can have 3 to 5 dinner meals a week, a minimum of 3, where you're all sitting at the table and have the discussion, no phones, no anything like that, have the discussion about what's going on that week or what's going on the next day and everything else, then that communication opens up and you don't get the last minute, oh, mom, I have a project due tomorrow, or, oh, I need this sign for tomorrow. And you didn't have time to read the permission slip. You don't know where they're going. You don't know what they're doing.
Right.
And things like that. Because kids will do that,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're notorious for it, right? My grandson was notorious for doing the assignments and leaving them in his desk and not turning them in. we went to a parent-teachers conference and all of his assignments were in his desk. So anyway, Linda, I love talking because we don't really have to deal with it, right? And so, but if you all have any questions or you have anything you want to discuss or reach out to us and talk about creating that harmony in your life, whether it be with kids going back to school, a new job, or whatever, please reach out to us. You can reach us on email at balancingact2024@gmail.com, or Linda's personal email, my personal email are in there. Go to our websites. But thank you for listening. Please like the show, share it, let people know about the Empowered Living community. And as we go, we'll shout out to Paul Martinelli, Andy Hall, Dr. Rick Ruperto, and the rest of the team there at Empowered Living. Thank you so much. Linda, thank you for putting up with me. And
thanks for putting up with me.
We'll see y'all on the next show. Thanks for listening.
Bye. Bye-bye. Be blessed.